Assalamu alaikum, welcome back to the show. Just before the show we were concluding on the points of the benefits of going to mosque, which we are going to elaborate on later on. I'd like to make it aware to the audience today that we do have a live-in session, so please do call in, do give us your feedback, any other topics you may have, suggestions, we're open to listening to them, inshallah. Now Sayyid, to bring you back onto the show, technology, we touched on it last week and I'd like to just touch on it again quickly. What it is many youth today may decide that because of YouTube, because of live streaming, because of the amount of programs which are being aired and can be watched at home, do we lose the benefits of going to mosque because of just listening to majlises at home? How can we emphasize to our youth that maybe coming to the farsh and can benefit them?
Right, the first thing is, and everybody who's watched a lecture on YouTube and then come and listen to a lecture at the Hussainiya knows that when you're at home and you're listening to a lecture, you can pause, you can get distracted, you may be doing something else at the same time, you might focus on something else, you might start talking to somebody, you might get a phone call.
Distractions.
All these things can happen. Compared to when you're in the mosque, you will try and be more focused because you're live right directly in front of that person. You're not in control, right? In this situation, you're in control. You could pause the person, you could do whatever. So that is one aspect of it. The other aspect, of course, is that, like we mentioned in the hadith, that there's a benefit of coming together, of gathering, right? That benefit you're not getting by being at home, because you're not meeting other people, you're not socializing, you're not doing that, you're not getting that social aspect. The other aspect, of course, is that you only get niyaz if you come to the mosque. You don't get niyaz by saying, watching a live stream at home or watching on YouTube. Okay. The other aspect, of course, is that this whole majlis, we have a way of doing it. So, for example, we have hadith al-qisa, we have Quran, we have du'as, we have Surah Yasin, other things which are recited. Then we have poetry, then we have lecture, then we have matam, or we have recitals if it's not a shahadat. Then we have ziyarat. So it begins with Quran and hadith al-qisa and it ends with ziyarat. And this is this whole thing is called majlis. So it's not just a lecture, all right? This whole thing, right? And each of these things have their own benefit. They're supposed to attract and supposed to bring different people who might have a different focus to the majlis. So like you mentioned, that for you, for example, the lecture is the most important thing, right? Yeah. Many people might say that for them the lecture is the most important thing. But some people might say that the poetry before the lecture is important for them, right? Or they might say the matam after the lecture is important for them. Nevertheless, it's supposed to bring all of these groups of people together. So the people who like to listen to the poetry at the beginning, people who like the matam at the end, the people who like the lecture, all of these groups of people are going to come together for the majlis, okay? And this is the beauty of the majlis. It's supposed to have something that will bring all these people who have these different tastes together and make them one.
Absolutely.
Okay? So the one who likes the poetry before the lecture will also listen to the lecture, get benefit from the lecture. The one who listens to the lecture or wants to focus on the lecture will listen to the poetry at the beginning. That will lead up to the lecture. Okay. Then after the lecture, there was going to be matam, or there's going to be other recitals, and they will also connect with what's been mentioned in the lecture. Okay. So all of these aspects are aspects which would
we find that going to mosque and sitting in that atmosphere where everyone is there for just one purpose, to attain knowledge, whatever way it may be, and to get closer to God, puts us all in that spiritual zone which we may not find getting at home.
Right. At home, it's very easy to, like we said, to be distracted.
Exactly.
It's very easy for a person to listen to the lecture but not to connect. Right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, obviously, there's listening to a lecture, and if you listen to a lecture wherever you listen to, whether you listen to on YouTube, on TV, or in the mosque, you might get the same benefits. But sometimes it's about more than the benefits. It's about connecting with the lecture, with the lecturer, with the actual message that's been mentioned in the lecture. And sometimes you will not connect because you listen to it whilst you are focused on other things. You are not 100% attention towards the lecture. And of course, the social aspect and the niyat aspect, this aspect you're not going to get at all, because you're saying at home, you're not connecting with the other people because there's no other people there to connect with.
I think in life we go through different stages of spirituality. Sometimes we may feel that we are closer to God, and sometimes we may feel that, okay, we're going slightly sidetracked. But what mosque does, to me anyways, is that by going to programs, it keeps me on track. If I may decide to, for example, sidetrack I know that there's a program happening on a Thursday night that if I go to, it'll get my connection back. And I guess the purpose of life is God consciousness, and that's something which we can get from going to Hussaini. I think that's one of the biggest benefits out there.
Absolutely. So, like we said, that it is imperative for us to reflect, to allow us to connect, and to, like you said, give us that spiritual recharge. Okay? So, it's the same thing. Like, for use an example that we can all relate with. If my phone runs out of juice, I need to put on the charger.
Absolutely.
Right? If my the batteries in my remote run out, I need to change the batteries. So similarly, spiritually, sometimes I'll feel low. Spiritually, sometimes I'll be down. Why? Because the battery has gone low. There's no juice. Now, how do you recharge? When you go there, you connect, you spiritually recharge. Now, once you've been there, you've been energized. Spiritually, not necessarily physically, maybe also physically as well, but definitely spiritually you've been recharged. When you've been spiritually recharged, now, like you said, it helps you. If you're going to go off the track, you become spiritually recharged. You say, no, I'm not going to go off the track. I'm not going to listen to this particular thing, or go to this particular place, or do this particular thing. Why? Because I got spiritually recharged by connecting with the mosque.
Do you think, say, having a youth representative amongst the committees of mosques will give the committee members a better idea of the issues which youth are facing? I mean, some of the issues which are, for example, happening in our communities is having a boyfriend, having a girlfriend, alcohol, drugs, and music. But there's so much more than that, and our centres may not know these issues if there isn't no one as a representative out there to share these thoughts.
It's important to have representatives rather than representative. Okay, and also it's important to have a cross-section of people in the committees to get an idea of all the different groups, because youth is not monolith, right? There's, for example, young children who have their own needs. Then there's teenagers who have their own needs. Then, of course, there are grown-ups and people in the 20s and 30s who have their own needs, right? So there are different groups of people. We can't just put them all in one group and say this, we're providing for all of them. We're not. Okay,
Absolutely.
That's one. Other thing is that if there's people from, obviously there isn't going to be children, but there's going to be parents of children, and if there's people from a younger age group who are, a wide cross section, so it's not just old people, older people, right? Who are disconnected. But people who are wide range, of people, then what that does is it allows the committees to focus and to cater for all those different groups that are being served on the committee, rather than
Absolutely.
it just being for one particular group of people, because all the people in the committee are a particular age and they're focusing on a particular thing or a particular taste, and they don't want to consider other people's what their needs are, what are the things, or what are the priorities and focuses that there should be.
Okay, thank you. I think now going on to the parents' role in making sure that the youth are going to mosque for whatever reason. Youth can lack foundations until their later years, simply because them being the first generation in this country, parents coming in from other Muslim countries may not have fully integrated into the Western society. For all sorts of reasons this may be. For example, where religion is intertwined with culture. So what's the parents' role, and how can they ensure that their kids are being attracted to going to Husseinias? And what does our religion say about this?
I think first of all, obviously, that if the parents prioritize their own selves in going to the Husseinias, into going to the Imambarghs, then the kids will naturally see that this is a priority in my parents' lives. Okay? Kids are very smart. They're more smart than we often give them credit for. And they will always do whatever I do. And no matter what you say, if you're doing something against what you say, the kid will listen to you, but they won't take you seriously, because they can see that what you're saying, what you're doing are two separate things. If you're consistent in what you're saying and you're doing, then the kids will see that as a priority. Why? Because they've seen you maintaining that as a priority. Now, if the parents put that as a priority, and then they put their kids' life, education, future as a priority, then they would be able to instill the importance into them. Right?
Absolutely.
There's no other way. The only way is to lead by example.
Yeah.
And to consistently do, for example, there's a quote, and I'm sure you all seen it on social media, which is attributed to Aristotle. It says that excellence isn't a thing. It's something that you have to keep on doing repeatedly. So that means it's a habit, right? If you keep on doing something repeatedly, it becomes a habit. That habit will lead you to excellence, right? So it's the same thing. You have to keep on doing this thing repeatedly, of coming there, of prioritizing in your life, and then to do it in your once you prioritize it in your life, then you will see that what you say will have an effect on the people whom you want to affect. If you don't, then it's a waste of time to tell somebody what to do when you don't do it your own self, right? So if I don't do something, then I tell you to do it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I'll promise you that your saying will have no effect on that person. Whereas if I do something and then I tell somebody to do it, then my doing that action will give the effect on that person, will have athar on that person, so that person will also be affected and say, yes, this person does it themselves, and then I should take this seriously.
So by parents showing the youth.
Absolutely, it has to be showing. It can't just be saying. It has to be showing. It has to be demonstrating that this is important in my life. And actions speak louder than words. Everyone knows, right?
Okay. We've mentioned the reasons. Now I think it's time to talk about the benefits and the beauties. The dull stuff aside, let's go on to talking about the advantages. And an advantage I can think of straight away is the friends you meet at mosque. I think the beauty of our religion, as we already mentioned, is that Husseinias bring us together. And instead of us going out to a restaurant or for shisha or to play snooker, we can look at this facility that we have to gather together. We don't need to treat it as something strict. Correct me if I'm wrong. We can treat it somewhere where we can be comfortable, gather together, talk. After the program, of course.
Absolutely, and it doesn't have to be mutually exclusive. So, for example, like for the children or for the young adults, if the mosque also provides facilities for recreational activities as well, obviously not the same time with the majlis, but at other times, then that is a very good thing, right? Why? Because at least if the kid or the young person is coming to the mosque for recreational activity, they'll think, well, if I come here for a recreational activity, then I should come here to pray as well. Should come here for a program as well. Why? Because I want to go to this place. I feel connected to this place, right? I used to hear some of my friends from Ahlul Sunnah who used to say that we only go to the mosque to learn Quran, and then once we've learn Quran, that's it, we don't go to the mosque anymore, right? Why? Because unfortunately some of the mosques or some of the ways that they used to teach were not the most user-friendly ways of getting their message across to young people, right? So some people, obviously now stopped, but unfortunately there's situations where the teachers were using, taking undue advantage of the fact that they were in position of power. They were, swearing at the students. They was, and worse. You know all the stories. I don't want to go into the details. Yeah. But what that gave me as a message was that if you make the mosque a place which brings in horror and terror into a young person's mind, then they'll never want to come to the mosque again. But if you make it into a place which is about love, which is about friendship, which is about connecting with people, if it's a place that you want to go to, right? Talking
about connecting to people, networking is another aspect and another advantage that
Absolutely.
You can get. We may be restricted in our lives from just going to work and coming back, but we don't realize going to mosques we meet different peoples of different professions, and we can gain so much from them. I know people, me myself, I've got a job in the past from meeting a friend at the mosque. And to be honest with you, most of our friends, they come from the mosque anyway. If you were to ask, where did you meet this person? They'd say, highly likely say they've met them at mosque.
Absolutely. And this is a very good point that you mentioned regarding networking. Again, if that leads me to have a job or to get a better job, for example, if it leads me to find out that, for example, there's this person who have suitable, appropriateness with somebody in my family who wants to get married, for example, or who wants to, do a business or start a business, so on and so forth. All of these things will connect, right? And Islam wants us, it's giving us all these opportunities to connect. Why? For example, prayer is an opportunity to connect. Fasting is an opportunity to connect, right? There's big emphasis on inviting somebody to break their fast with you, to have iftar with you. Hajj is an opportunity to connect. 2 million people gathered in the same place to connect. Even things like zakat, khumus, amr bil ma'roof, nahy anil munkar is an opportunity to connect. Why? Because you're going and helping another person. So you're connecting with that person. When you help another person, when you advise them to do the right thing, when you stop them from doing something wrong, when you help them financially due to the hukm of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you're connecting with that person. Why? Because you gave it to them because God told you to, right? So you connected with them on the basis of their faith, on the basis of their iman.
Absolutely.
You advise somebody to do the right thing because God expects me to advise people to do the right thing. You stopped somebody from doing. Why? For example, if a child starts to do something good, what do the young people? They encourage. Say this person did a good thing. It's in the adhan, for example, or you recite a surah. You encourage, right? Why? This is called amr bil ma'ruf. It's to command to do the right thing. It's to encourage doing the right thing. Or to the opposite of that, if the child does something wrong, says a swear word, for example, or tries to take a knife or tries to take something that's going to cause them harm, then you stop that child from doing it. This is not because you are being oppressive or you're not giving them rights. No, why? Because you know that this child is too young to understand the harm that's associated with this particular action that they're about to do, or with this instrument that they happen to have got hold of, right? Similarly, I should have the same emotions and the same feeling for my believing brother. That this person who's doing something wrong, maybe he's doing it because he doesn't understand, or she doesn't understand the severity of this wrongdoing. So I have to go and stop them. Obviously, this encouraging people, this discouraging people has to be done in the proper way. But it's definitely something, and all of these things, that means that every single one of our wajibat, every single one of our furudin is connected with other people. And when it's connected with other people, that means that religion of Islam ultimately wants me to connect with other people.
I think you've highlighted the importance of community spirit there as well. So, and the next point to mention is knowledge. Now, when we go to Husseiniya, for those who may not go there, the knowledge which we actually seek, regardless of whether the lecturer may be someone who you can't connect with, or you don't want to go there because of political reasons, the masjid may be happening, what is actually said what is actually said on the mimbar of Hussein Ali Muhammad is wonderful, and we can gain so much and implement them in our daily lives. Even if one or two words we can pull out of there, I think that's another great example that we can gain from going to the Imambargh.
If we look at this example, so for example, I watched a lecture on YouTube, or I watched a lecture on TV, or I watched a lecture on some other social media, right? If, for example, there's something in the lecture that I didn't understand,
you can't go back to them.
So how will I go back to this person? Or for example, okay, I can send an email, but are they going to reply? Are they not going to reply? If they do reply, for example, how do I know that they've been able to convey the message that they were supposed to? I've been able to ask them in the way that I was supposed to? No guarantees. But if I go there and I listen to that person, then straight away there and then I can ask the person that you recited this, you said this, can you explain? I didn't understand. Can you explain it to me? Can you help me understand? So this is very important.
Physical interaction.
Right?
Yeah.
Because there's an interaction directly with other people. Why? Otherwise, everybody would do everything on Skype, right? When you have a meeting with an important client, you go to that place, right? Why? Because you want that person's business. So you give them importance. You say, otherwise you could have had that conversation, that meeting on Skype or on video call. Why? It would have been the same thing. You would have seen them, they would have seen you.
I think
why do you go there? You go there to show that you think that this person's business is so important to you that you are willing to travel to that person to get their business. Yes? Similarly, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that your business with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala should be so significant that you're willing to travel from your house to this place in order to get this transaction. Right?
I think self-reflection is another point where we're so busy in our daily lives. Husseiniya is a place where we can actually self-reflect on some of the things that we do in our life. When we're doing our daily activities, we may forget maybe some of the wrong things we may have done at work, some of the wrong things we may have done at home to our wives, to our kids, but being there and listening to the good things which are being said may allow us to ponder over what is being said. For example, also Quran. We listen to Quran at mosque. It's said quite in every program in the beginning. We may not get a chance at home to read the Quran, but we may not read the Quran ourselves. We may not understand it. But being there at mosque and listening to the Quran, we may click in our minds and say this is actually beautiful, and that we should actually go back and start reading the Quran.
Absolutely.
And I think
maybe sometimes it's just one thing. So for example, I'll speak for an hour. I've said thousands of words in that hour. Okay. Maybe just one word, one sentence that I said has positively affected that person. Okay. That alone is enough to make it worthwhile, right? So I listen to a clip or I listen to something online, didn't focus, for example, number one. Number two, I don't know the context of what's said before and after. What's the continuation of this particular thing that's being discussed, or this topic that's being discussed? Okay, and again, like I said, if I have a question, if I don't understand something, I can't just go up to this person and ask because it's not there. So all of these points are key in our reflection over why it's important to actually go physically to that place and what the benefit of that is.
Okay. Finally, just quickly, we're running almost out of time. Madrasa. I teach at madrasa. I can. It helps me in my daily life by teaching kids. I give back to the society. If you can just touch upon madrasa quickly and the importance of it.
I think it's probably one of the most important, especially living in this country. For some young people, in fact for a lot of young people, it's perhaps the only teaching about Islam that they receive in the whole childhood, the whole years that they're at school. So it's very important. It's very important that we support the madrasas. It's very important that we take the madrasa seriously the way that we take school seriously. It's very important that parents take interest in their children's learning. If parents take interest in their children's learning, the children will know that our parents will take interest in what we're learning. If they don't, then the children will definitely know that whatever I'm learning here, there's no use of this, there's no benefit from this. Why? Because my parents are not giving priority, they're not giving importance to this particular facet of my education. Right? So you don't have to say anything, but how you behave will influence the young people. So this point is very important. Also, this point that madrasas are overstretched most of the time. They're underfunded, they're understaffed. Like you said, you volunteer and you teach at the madrasa. It's due to the volunteers, the wonderful, amazing volunteers who, for years, who have taught at the madrasas to keep them going. And it's imperative that those who can teach should at least give some commitment.
Younger generation.
Should give some commitment to help teach, especially the younger generations. And those who can't, for example, you don't have time, you can't give the commitment, but at least you can support the people who are already doing it.
Absolutely.
Right? And realize, come one time, just observe, the lesson, so you get the value out of the sessions of what it actually is.
Another important advantage, I think we can't probably touch on it now, but is praying in Jamaat. The benefits of Jamaat are amazing, and inshallah if we can all get time to go and pray Jamaat, it improves the concentration of our prayers. If there's any one sentence you can say on Jamaat you'd like to say?
Absolutely. If you want one sentence on Jamaat, then it's mentioned that if there's a Jamaat going on and any one of those people in that Jamaat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts their prayer, or their prayer is perfect, then because of that person, everybody else's prayers would also be accepted.
Subhanallah.
Right? So just one person, and it doesn't necessarily mean the person leading, any one person in that Jamaat, if that person's prayer is accepted, then because of that, everybody else's prayer would be accepted.
Thank you, Sayyid. Thank you for your time today. Thank you for everyone tuning in. Inshallah, please do tune in next week. I'd like to quickly conclude. We don't have much time left. It's been an important topic, and I hope we can all benefit from this. Going to mosques, improving our spirituality, getting involved in madrasas, being outside of the circle and doing other things rather than just going to work. And hopefully we can put more importance on this to help us improve our iman by going to Husayniyah. Thank you for everyone once again tuning in. Inshallah, hopefully we can stay tuned again next week for another topic. Khudafis.